Hi guys, I am Nobukumalo. If it's your first time here, welcome to my channel. And if you're coming back, thank you so much for coming back. Welcome back. If you haven't subscribed as yet, please click the subscribe button and click the notification bell so that each time I upload a video, you will be notified. So I'm with my husband, BK, again today. Hi babe. We're still on vacation, so if you hear any noise, please bear with us. Background noise, we have no control over that, but we still hope you'll be able to hear through all the noise and get the essence of what we want to share today. So I think a week or 2 weeks back, we were at church in our afternoon lesson. So we have this like young married people's class, and we also have like a few people who are like at the stage of getting married, who are in serious relationships, or who are not necessarily in serious relationships, but are at the stage of thinking about it. And I don't remember what we're talking about when someone says something about like what is the maximum age gap or something like that, and someone say 5 years maximum, like some arbitrary, like it's just like 5 years maximum. And obviously I'm like, really, where is that written? 5 years maximum, like where is that rule? Granted, maybe I was a little bit more defensive because the age gap between me and my husband is 6 years, right? So he just turned 34, I turned 28 like a month ago. So obviously when someone says 5 years, I'm like, what exactly informed that decision to say when you get to 5 years post that it stops being possible, feasible, or making sense? So we should talk about how we've navigated the age difference between us, and how we've made that work for us. So maybe let me start from your end. When you decided that I'm the girl, like you were, like having experienced life and knowing that I was like 6 years younger than you, what was the thought process behind seeing me as someone that you could build a life with? Or maybe it wasn't even a life at that point, but like someone you could date.
I think the decision had nothing to do with age, right? Because age is an arbitrary thing. It can mean something, it might not mean anything. But day to day, you live with a person. So my decision was based on the person that I was interacting with day to day. So looking at you, you were somebody I thought I can build a life with.
So I think also it's important to say that there is a certain point where age matters, right? So if you're a 20-year-old and you're dating a 14-year-old, obviously there's a problem with that. Or even if you're a 17-year-old, rather, let me speak on the side of the older person, because they're supposed to be the responsible one. If you're a 23-year-old and you're dating a 17-year-old, obviously I think there is a bit of a problem with that. And I think the defining factor comes in that I think the older you get, the smaller the disparities, or the smaller age matters, because of life stage and shared experiences and becoming an adult. So like a 14-year-old is literally a child, a 20-year-old is an adult, a 36-year-old and a 42-year-old, really the difference is really just age and numbers. But beyond that, it's it doesn't really matter, because you're both adults, you've grown up, you've experienced life. But I think when I was considering if I wanted to date him, and even after we started dating, for me the important thing was for him to respect the fact that by virtue of him being older, he's obviously wiser, he's lived life, and he's gone through stuff. But I needed him to respect the fact that I need to go through stuff for myself as well, right? I need to learn and explore and become more of myself. For background, I was 20, I think, when we started dating, and he was 26. So it was important for him to say that I'm just new to adulthood. I was still in uni, I still had big dreams and hopes for what I wanted to do in the future and who I wanted to become. And I felt it was important for him to allow me to grow, But I also needed to be wise enough to learn also from him, from his mistakes, right? There's wisdom in seeing how others have, done stuff and gone wrong and messed up, and deciding that I do not want to go that course, learning from those who've come before you. I don't know how was that, letting me be, but also being someone who loves me, also trying to like guide me and protect me from myself even.
I don't think that was a complicated thing for me, because I felt like, okay, so there's a lesson I learned pretty early, right? And this came from my career transition and like how I dealt with money badly when I was younger and things like that. So since then, I've always kind of had this feeling that I can, I have room enough. I've come to a stage in my life where I have room enough to fail, like, and get back to 0.
Mm-hmm.
And like my baseline, my 0 is okay, is a high 0, right?
Okay.
So like, for example, if you look at changing my career, I knew that if I try to venture into another career and it doesn't work out, the lowest I could go, it was back to the stage I was in civil engineering. Like maybe I would have to drop maybe a level below that or something because I've been away for some time. But like that's my new 0. You get it? That's the new baseline. So similarly, even in other life matters, right? You might think, maybe I'm putting my life on hold or I'm taking risks or whatever, right? But still, my understanding is that I already have a pretty high baseline. So if I try this thing and it doesn't work out, the baseline that I fall back to is already pretty high. And I mean, being young is nice.
Yeah.
There's a lot of nice things to experience. And experiencing that all over again, or observing somebody or going along with somebody on the journey of experiencing all of those things and stuff all over again is not a bad prospect, right? So for me, it wasn't a difficult decision at all because of those reasons. And I mean, if you think about it, if you have such an age difference, you obviously have some kind of influence on this person, right? Naturally.
I always laugh when I say, you've told me to Google everything. Like, there's no question that I could have in my head that I do not first think of. Google probably knows the answer, and I learned that from you. To say, like, the internet pretty much has all the answers. They might not necessarily be the right answers, because things like Dr. Google sometimes are a bit sketchy. But like, as a bare minimum, you've told me that whenever you ask someone a question, there's a good chance they're going to go to Google to find out before coming to respond to you. So why not just cut down the middleman and try and find the answers for yourself before going to this person? And these are transferable skills that I've taken even to work and my job, to say, before I ask my senior ABCD, have I done my best to find out the information, so that whatever they're telling me is something that is supplementing what the effort that I've put for myself.
Yeah, for sure. And if you think about it, like, not just in relationship, but in life in general, there are phases in life when we are younger and we kind of give the responsibility for knowing and some things to the older people in our lives, right? So it could be parents or whatever. And this is kind of me explaining this influence thing, right? That before you formed your own opinions on some things, you sort of took my opinion on the things, right? You ask, what do you think about this? And if it makes sense, you take that up as your own thing. Maybe later in life you revise it and think about it and now hold it as your own because you've thought about it, or change it, right? But where I'm going with this is that if you are in a relationship where you are older than somebody, then you need to understand that you have an influence on them. You have an influence on shaping their worldview or their ideas of certain things and so forth. And you kind of need to be responsible with that influence. Because like you said, if you're not responsible with that influence, you will not allow the person to discover the world for themselves and, grow into themselves. They'll kind of grow in the route that you've set for them, that you've molded for them. So I don't know why or where that came from, but that's something that I was mindful of even from the start, that I need to be responsible with my influence.
Yeah, so I think you are very right in that. I could see that even the decisions you made or the things that you said, you were kind of cognizant of the fact that because you're older, I probably look up to you in so many ways, and that what you say or do can have an influence on how on what I think is the right thing to say or the wrong thing to say, and ultimately the type of person that I become. And so moving along, so we date, and remember I'm still in uni, and at some point you express that you feel like you're ready to get married. when you were thinking about that and seeing that I was still in school, because like nowadays a lot of people like have this whole marry someone who is established for themselves, who's got their things in order. Okay, but here's this person who's still in uni, who you want to marry, but pretty much has nothing to her name. Like, were there any like concerns that you had, whether it's maturity or what do they bring to the table? Like to put it like, what was that for you?
Not really. What was important for me was not so much that you have something, but is that I marry somebody who's ambitious, because I'm a very ambitious person. I'm not the sort of, work, make money, chill for the rest of your life type of person, right? I'm the sort of person who wants to always work at something new, right? Always want to have influence in your community, in the world, and keep growing, keep learning type of person. And so I think it's because of that people who are ambitious are attractive to me. And so I really wanted somebody who is, who will not be the sort of personality at some point in life they're like, I'm done. They reach 30, they get their first job, they think it's a good job, and they're like, I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm okay now for the rest of life. Because I feel like we always need to be growing and learning something new and stuff like that. So because I could see that quality, I was okay with you not having the things, right? If somebody's driven enough, it's only a matter of time before they also have their own things. So things don't matter. And again, if you think about the thing that I said initially, that the baseline, right?
Yeah.
If, if you are now at varsity, you're graduating from your degree, that's your new baseline, right? That's like the lowest you can fall. So, and I was comfortable with that. But thinking about this, I'm kind of wondering, because if I'm like that, did you not have fears then that maybe this guy has got his things in order, a lot of the things in order, his direction set, and how am I going to fit in that? Am I going to have the opportunity for self-expression, or do I now just have to fit into his journey?
I think for me a big part of being comfortable making the decision is that even before you started speaking about marriage, you had brought me into your life as an equal partner. I remember very early on into our relationship, you actually gave me a bank card to your account. This is not to say it's all about money, right? But like, to me it said, I'm giving you this card, I'm giving you access to funds, so I trust you to be wise enough to use them wisely, right? And so to me, this said, this person is someone who trusts me and thinks I am wise enough to handle what they entrust me with. And in terms of like you being established, I think for me it was even a bonus maybe, because I felt like I had, like you said, a baseline, right? Like if I was to take the plunge and marry this person, I had room to explore and try things and fail, but knowing that there's someone who's going to be there to catch me when I fall, right? But when I was just thinking about the marriage thing, a big thing for me was that the stuff that, as someone who was in uni, was finishing uni, yet to work, and there were certain things that I felt I needed to do for my parents, like things that needed money, like things that I wanted to do with my first salary, right? I think the way I wanted to take care of my parents and sort of like thank them for raising me and like pay them back for raising me, and certain obligations that I wanted to fulfill for myself, not because my parents put them on me, but because I wanted. And so it was important for me, for you to understand that we're getting into a partnership where we're probably going to join finances and join our lives and decisions, but I need you to respect the commitments that I made to myself before I even met you. The commitments that I made to myself, that there are things that I'm going to do at this certain stage of life, and that because I'm choosing to join my life with you at this stage, please don't derail me from the commitments that I made to myself. And I think you did great in that, because even when I started working, so I still had a bit of time after we got married. I was still doing my master's before I started working. But so by the time I started working, we'd been married for just under 11 months, I think. But when that first salary came in and I wanted to do A, B, C, D, E, I was able to do all those things not behind your back, covertly, but you knew exactly what I was doing. But I did not at any time feel like maybe I'm doing too much, because he had gone through that road. Whatever it is that he did when he started working for his parents, he had the opportunity. But now I needed that opportunity for myself, and I think you really did well in helping me to, fulfill my promises to myself and my promise to my parents. And I think even as my parents were thinking about like me getting married soon after school, I don't think they were thinking, oh, now I'm gonna miss out on all the money that she could have given us. But I'm sure they like had concerns about, will she still have room to grow and reach her goals financially, career wise, generally? Is this marriage going to help her to become the person that she's always dreamt of being, or is this now going to be someone who will make her settle because she now needs to calm down and she needs to curb her ambitions? So I think for me, you have done very well with that. And I tell my people of, how people grow and change with time. And I have seen myself change during our marriage, like not in terms of like fundamental, like the core values, but like certain things I believe certain views that I have about certain things, not core values or beliefs. Those ones, if it starts being shaky, I think that's a bigger thing. When someone changes that, and suddenly they're questioning if God is even a thing. Those are deep, But like small things, I'm struggling to think of an example. But I'm sure you've changed. But I feel like because I was still growing up, I got married at 24 and I'm 28 now. I've seen a lot of growing and changing. How has that been for you?
I don't think you've changed wildly, right? You've settled into some things, you've questioned some things that you believed before and things like that. But I don't think any of those things have created such a wild change in you that I'm thinking you're such a different person from the person that I married, right? So I've not seen a change that has made me concerned. Now, this is not to say I was completely right about everything. I don't think so. And even on some things that were really big and very important to me. Like, for example, I think I deemed you to be a lot more ambitious than you actually are. And this is not to say you're not ambitious. It's that...
That sounds weird. Okay.
This is not to say you're not ambitious, but that I'm a bit of a workaholic, right? I take this thing of having a big influence and working hard on your thing a bit much.
Okay.
Right? And I initially thought you are sort of close to my level. Because, think about it. You were at university, you were an A grade student, right? You had distinctions all around, you were acing everything, and you sort of had this drive to have a certain level of performance. So that gave me an impression that you are kind of a workaholic, as I am, which you're not.
Yeah, I'm not. But I think that's part of it, like that's part of the growing part of it, right? Like I probably also thought that about myself at that time, that I'm supposed to like go get a ABCD. But as I grow, I start to question, like, is this all I want for my life? How much is this going to take out of that other part of my life? And I start to reevaluate, or maybe I just realize maybe I'm not cut out for this, it's too hard, or whatever the reasons. But it's the constant learning and unlearning and evaluating and reevaluating your life and what matters and making adjustments as is necessary.
One thing I always wonder though is, like from a professional perspective, when we met, I was already like ahead professionally, right? And in terms of like performance at work, I'm generally a high performer, right? So usually in the teams that I join, it's only a matter of time before I'm like, considered as one of the high performers in that team and stuff like that. And that's stuff that you've been privy to, right? So now you have this person who's relatively senior in their career, right? And is quite a high performer. And here's you're a high performer, fine, but you're quite junior in your thing. And so I always wonder, does my professional level of professional performance put you under pressure to some extent?
Yeah, like definitely. Like I've seen, first of all, just how much you love your job. I think as a bare minimum, like I'm honest, like I wish I could love a job or something as much as you seem to love and enjoy your job. So like that's the first point of pressure. Say, am I in the wrong field if I'm not as passionate as he is? But then I quickly remind myself that this is not your first profession, right? So you were at some point maybe in a profession where you didn't have the drive and the energy to exert yourself as much because it wasn't your thing. So then I'm like, okay, maybe I just need to go through the motions for now. Maybe one day I'm going to find something I'll be just as passionate about. So I quickly write that one down. But then also see just how hardworking and how much of a high performer I am. It does like put me under pressure. Because there are sometimes when I feel like, does he think does he think I'm not doing enough? Like, does he think I'm not giving or fully exerting myself as he would or as I should? Does he then think less of me because of the way I don't seem to be as aggressive in the pursuit of career? But then I also tell myself that it's okay, and like balance is fine, and I comfort myself in that at some point in life one of us will have to be fine with being a bit more laid back for the sake of the relationship and maybe children if God allows us to have kids and stuff. So you don't put me under pressure, but I've learned to manage that and quiet my mind down a bit.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah. So would you say, like, I know you said that the changes haven't been stuck, but would you say a big part of why it's been relatively easy to see and accept those changes is because I think I've always been conscious of making sure that I bring you along on the journey of change, because you were the person that you knew at that time. Yes, you knew objectively that people change, but you don't know the ways in which I will change, that direction I will grow. So for me, it's always been important to make sure that you are well aware of where my mind is, so that if you see changes, you're not shocked and it doesn't seem like I was this one day and woke up that the other day. Would you say that has sort of made it easier?
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, I'm sure you've heard me say at some points that it's really important for you and your partner to grow in the same direction,
yeah.
right? To grow together. Because if you don't do that, then you're going to drift apart. At some point, you wake up and be like, I don't know this person. Because you've grown in different directions. And it's important to keep in touch. I certainly think you do that better than me. In fact, there's a conversation I was having with some friends a couple of days ago, right? Mm-hmm. Somebody had asked, and they're saying, do you think, like, if your wife is going out with their friends, right? Do you want to know where they are going and who they are going with? Is that important, right? And so I gave the response that in general, I think there are things that we owe each other as married people, right? So, because, a further part to his question was, is that okay or is it policing the other person too much, right? And so my initial response was, it's very important to understand that there are things we owe each other as married people, right? And our whereabouts and who we're with are one of those things. I'm not policing you too much if I want to know where you are and who you are with, right? Now, as to whether I do that, I was like, I generally don't ask too much about those things, right? But anyway, a part of it is that she referring to is likely to tell me those things anyway before I even ask. And I was like, yeah, she would probably tell me more than I do, actually. I'm the one who's likely to just get out of the house and not say anything, right? Or, send a message later or whatever, right? I'm the one who's more likely to do that. And then I added to that in general, that should be fine. But if you find yourself in a situation where your other person does not want you to know anymore who they are with and where they are, then maybe you have a bigger problem than this policing stuff, and that you have to address that bigger problem, right? So in general, I mean, it's okay. Sometimes I ask, sometimes I don't ask. I'm curious, sometimes I'm not curious. And asking and wanting to know about those things is not policing
It's not
the other
policing,
person,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Because we're married. And because we're married, we owe each other certain things. Anyway, my point with this is that I think you are much better at like communicating your moves than I am.
I think it's a good place to wrap it up. Huh? So like you said, age is an arbitrary thing, but as someone who is in a relationship and starting to start a life with someone who's younger, significantly younger or older than you, there are things that you need to be honest with yourself about in terms of the fact that you guys are in two different life stages, and you have to allow yourselves and give yourselves enough room to both explore those ages whilst also trying to build something towards a common goal. And it's on the, like you said, it's on the older person. There's an onus to be responsible and aware of the fact that you are molding this person, whether you realize it or not subconsciously. And as the younger person, I think it's important also that your person is aware of all the things that you still want to do and explore with your life. And before just going ahead and doing all those things, that you bring them for the ride and that they're always aware of what's on your mind, so that you are collectively still building together, though you might be at different stages in your life. Any last words?
Yeah, I mean, we have said that age doesn't matter as much as the person, right? Assess the person, because different people are different at different ages, right?
Yeah.
So assess the specific person and figure out, is this the person that you want? But I think it must be said that there are some things that age does affect.
Yeah.
And so you can't just apply a blanket and say age doesn't matter. Sometimes age does matter,
Yeah.
and age does make a difference. I mean, what those things are, maybe we can explore it another time, but all I'm saying is like exercise some wisdom and figure out, because there are things that age
That
does
age
affect.
Cool. Thank you guys for sticking around. If you're still here at the end of this video, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Please comment down below. Tell us what your age gap is between you and your significant other, whether you've had any struggles, whether you do it again, whether you have any concerns, or if you're thinking of being with someone who's younger or older than you. If you have any questions that you'd like us to answer, let us know. Otherwise, thank you for joining me. Please like, please share, and I'll see you guys again next time. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.